Welcome, and thanks for joining us on the Creative Bias Podcast. The conversation today is about masking, and especially masking at work. And one of the things that I actually heard in a meeting recently that got me thinking about masking before you and I started talking about it was I was in a workshop with a client, and as an icebreaker, I said, let's go around the room and talk about an unpopular opinion you have, because part of what we were doing was about having hard conversations. So I was like, let's just have a hard conversation right off the bat.
So provocative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And mine was that I don't like ice cream. And I don't like ice cream.
Easy. Oh my God.
I know.
Okay.
That's kind of a silly one, and other people had silly ones. But one person had one that kind of like really stopped me in my tracks, and she's like, I don't think that people should be compelled or told to bring their whole self to work. And I was like, well, that's really interesting, because a lot of people say you should bring your whole self to work. And I think I've probably been guilty of that thought process too, because people would say to me, like when I was working in corporate, they'd be like, why is it that your team likes you so much? Like everybody thinks you're like the greatest boss and people like you. And I'd be like, yes, because I just am who I am. I'm myself. There's not like work Steve, and work Steve is like this, and then Steve goes home and becomes a different guy. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I don't, and it's just me. And I think people respond to that. But I want to hear from you. What is your definition when you think of masking? How do you define it? How does it manifest in your experience, in your world, in your life?
Yeah, I think, the psychology part of me knows like the actual types of it. But I think ultimately it's a coping mechanism. So like what you were saying, like there isn't work Steve and then like at home Steve.
Yeah.
I would challenge that though, because for me at least, the person I am with like my best friend is definitely not the girl that shows up at my office every day. Because I have like, you don't need to know all of that about me.
Right.
For me to do my job, Right.
Well, and when you said that, one of the things that I wonder is, do you think that women mask more than, or feel like they have to, feel more pressure to wear a mask in professional environments than men do? And when I say that, there's definitely exceptions. Everybody's different. But do you feel like on average, women feel that like there's more pressure to put on a face, put on an act, put on a show, more so than guys?
Yes. In fact, I think the mask that they wear is masculine. Like they try to emulate the men in the office to like fit into the boys club or whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with
trope you want to identify that is common in that world.
Yeah, I don't have any data on that, but that's what I would absolutely assume.
There's definitely an armor that goes on, and I think at the root of it is just because they feel they need to, because in general, women don't feel safe around men, whether they're aware of it or not, and they're seen as the successful gender, if you will, in that context, and so emulating that seems beneficial.
Let me ask you this, because I am interested, especially in the experience and how it differs for men and women. Do you think masking is a necessary evil or kind of a benign skill? Or a third option, do you think masking is a plague that needs to be eradicated?
I'm gonna say this. I think it depends on the person. whether they're masking consciously or unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about this earlier. I would say before my first go round in corporate, I had no idea how much I was doing. The happy face routine, that was, you know, you have a shit day at home and you come into work like, hey, Greg, how was your weekend? Like, you know what I mean? And it's just like you're dying inside.
Right.
So there is that like performative, you're not even aware that you're doing it. That's just your baseline.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me now, it's like I'm really good at reading people. I understand who I'm supposed to be in this boardroom. I understand my role, and I'm going to stay in my lane.
Interesting. Well, stay in my lane is an interesting twist on that because, okay, so you're saying that.
When I say that, I mean like I'm using it as an example for the collective you, not specifically me.
Here's what I want to know. I'm thinking especially like in the field that we came from, advertising. Mm-hmm. You might have, let's say you would have 3 clients. And each client is a different person, and maybe they're in a different business, and maybe they've got different challenges. And the way you want to hold yourself and show up in a meeting with client A might be very different. You might, like, client A might want you to joke around with them and, like spend 10 minutes at the beginning of the meeting talking about your golf game or whoever, who won the Grammys the night before. Client 2 might be like, we're going down to business and you better have some data and some numbers and we got to da-da-da-da-da-da. And then client number 3 might be a balance. And so it is a necessary skill to wear a different mask, show up differently. Is that bad? Should that not be the case? Or is that just so incredibly and intrinsically human and part of the human condition that, like, let's take work out of it. You got a neighbor on the left of you and a neighbor on the right of you, and you have to interact with them in one way or another, and they're probably very different people, and so you might have to show up differently for different people. Is masking just kind of comes with the human condition? Or should we be trying to be more authentic all the time?
Simple answer for it, but also I think this answer is specific to the workplace. Mm-hmm. Because I would agree that, like, masking shouldn't be necessary outside of this transactional space. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's where, like, people don't differentiate. The workplace is the one place where it is appropriate to be transactional. Because you are doing a job and you're getting paid to do that job. That is the transaction. How you show up is probably also part of that transaction. So that, in a way, is healthy. And I think the simple answer is what I just identified. If you're masking as tools in a box that you're consciously being like, I need this tool right now and this tool right now to meet this end goal to complete my job, that, to me, healthy, conscious, you're aware of it. I think where it becomes unhealthy and kind of scary, frankly, is when you didn't even know that you were code switching, because that's like a whole nother layer of this that I didn't even think of. But, like, code switching is probably a really good example of masking.
Ultimate masking,
to assimilate. Right? And I think that that's where it becomes problematic, is like when you're unconscious of this is who I am and this is me acting like who I think I'm supposed to be in this.
So you said a very interesting word, and the word is transactions. And you were like, at work, it's a transaction. And so if there's value in that transaction to masking, code switching, whatever it is, then that's more acceptable than when it's outside of the workplace. And I get the logic of that argument. But I think for some people, every human interaction is a transaction. And those might be the worst people in the world. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But even for people who are, well-intentioned... Like, I'll go back to the example of, like, your neighbors. So your neighbor on the left, maybe they play their music too loud all the time. And so you want to go talk to them and you want to get them to not play their music too loud anymore so you could sleep. That's a transaction, right? The other side, your neighbor has really cool parties, or like it always smells like cookies and you want some of those cookies. And so when you talk to them, that's
Quote
a transaction.
unquote cookies.
Cookie. Maybe it's a quiche. I don't know.
Special cookies.
But you're trying to get the plug. And so the question is, like, I think life and human interaction is more transactional than just work. And if that's true, if you buy that, then masking and code switching and all of that stuff just kind of becomes like, it is, as you put it, something in your toolbox, but in your toolbox as a human, not as a straight up capitalist. Mm-hmm. Do you buy that, or do you think I'm just apologizing for the worst impulses of humanity?
Yeah, I think a lot of us have gotten used to that being okay.
Yeah.
I think that is a learned thing that we've sort of accepted, and I think as a collective we become more emotionally intelligent. We're seeing how that's not really working for everyone the same. Mm-hmm. So I would agree that it is an aspect of human relationships, but I don't think that it should be as ingrained as it is now. Like, especially like, for instance, I think the biggest thing, because of, I guess, my own experience with it, right?
Yeah.
Parental dynamics.
Yeah.
And the idea that kids owe their parents something. And that makes that relationship very transactional.
Yeah.
Where it really probably shouldn't be.
Oh my God, I love that you brought this up. I love that you brought this up, because as you were talking, I was like trying to like rifle through my head and be like I was no, like, what is a human interaction that isn't transactional? And I was thinking about like going on a date with somebody. That's a transaction. Being married, that's a series of transactions that never ends. Playing music with people, that's a transaction. Like, you are giving to them, they are giving back to you. It needs to be satisfying, and improvising is a form of masking, perhaps. And so I couldn't get it. I couldn't get to like, what is the pure thing that like shouldn't be a transaction? And then you said it, it's parent-child. And I remember, I remember one of my very first like one-on-one, I was coaching somebody. And they said that what they came to me with was they wanted to have a better relationship with their son. And they said, I just don't feel like I understand my son. And so then we talked for a long time. And I was like, I think you understand your son perfectly. I just don't think you like what you understand. And then I asked the person, the client, a question. And I was like, I don't want you to answer this question off the top of your head. I want you to answer this question the next time we talk. And the question is, what do you believe a parent owes to their child? And what do you believe a child owes to their parent? I want you to think about that. Like, just think about that. Because I think we probably all have like, oh, well, I think that, and we could just talk ourselves into head knowing what the answer is. But I intentionally wanted the person to think about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No. Go ahead.
So the end of that story is that the next time I met with this person, they came back and they had an answer, and it was pretty close to what I had in my head, but as a coach, it's not about what I had in my head. And the person was like, I you open my eyes to the fact that I do understand my son, and I just have been struggling to accept having a relationship with my son on his terms. And the answer that I would give to the question, and I think about this a lot, of what does a parent owe their child and what does a child owe their parent, is a parent owes their child like everything. Like my daughter needs to know that as long as I'm alive, like I am a safe space for her, and I will take care of her to the best of my ability. And I will make sure that she has the best chance to have like a good outcome in whatever it is. What she owes me is nothing. Nothing. Like I don't even play that game about, oh, she's got to respect me. Like, why? She didn't ask to be born, like my wife and I created her. She had no agency in that decision. She's here. I would like it if she respects me. I would like it if she listens to me. I would like ideally, it if she, ideally, but like, I don't think she owes me that, and certainly doesn't owe me that, like out of hand. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, well, that's the baseline. You have to respect me. I have to be worthy of you respecting me. And even if I am, and you don't, and you decide you want to go and join a motorcycle gang and never speak to me again after she turns 18, it'll break my heart. It'll shred me into pieces, but that's her choice.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right.
So all of that to say, the one relationship that should not be transactional is parent to child, in my opinion. Because I don't think a child should ever need to wear a mask around their parents to be like, well, my dad wants me to be like this, so I better act like I'm like that. Like, no, that sucks.
Right. And yet, that's a super hot take. Mm-hmm. I mean, talk about unpopular opinions. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that it's unpopular, but I think
a lot of people would disagree with it.
A lot of people don't see it that way. And I also, like, there are people who aren't parents that exist in the world, and I do believe it's possible to have pure, really, like, I've been lucky enough, I feel, to have, I can think of at least one friendship that I've had in my life where it is not transactional.
Yeah.
Like, if we do something for each other, it's because we love each other, and there is no expectation. There's no give me backs. There's no keeping tally. There's no keeping score. And I think that that's the hallmark of, like, a really healthy relationship, when you're not keeping score.
I agree. And I definitely agree with that. And I also agree that, like, I'm big on behavior over feelings. And I've finally gotten to this thing in my life where I'm like, I'm at my worst when I'm, like, living in my feelings, because your feelings lie to you a lot of times, I think. And I think behavior is a lot more important. And I think about that as it relates to love a lot. Like, when people are like, oh, I love this, I love them, I love them. For me, there's being in love, and there's infatuation, and there's, like, that chemical soup that, like, it's novel and it's fun and it's exciting, and you want them and they want you in all these different ways.
Yeah.
But to me, real love is the willingness to sacrifice your comfort for another person's comfort. Like, that to me is love. And if you're not willing to do that, don't tell me you love somebody, because you don't. You got to be willing to sacrifice your comfort for someone else. And that's also why I think that, like, as it relates to parenting, like, if I say I love my child, then I'm going to sacrifice my comfort every day. And I will, because, especially as your kids get older, you're like, they're not under my thumb all the time. So I don't know where they are in the world all the time. And de facto, I'm sacrificing my comfort by the very act of being a parent and caring.
Yeah.
But I don't think kids should have to repay that favor and be like, well, I'd sacrifice my comfort for my dad. Like, if you want to, great. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I don't think the expectation should exist.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, does that get into a larger conversation around masking, or is that like, I feel like masking, like, it sounds so binary. And what that lady said in the workshop where she was like, I don't think we should bring our whole selves to work. Mm-hmm. The more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, and how could you? Like, no. That would probably be impossible. I think we can be as... No. Yeah.
We're the corporate space does not have the EQ to sustain that. For everyone at all.
Right, nor should it. Right.
No.
Right. This is an Arby's.
No.
We're trying to sell things to people. That's it.
Yeah.
So your experience now around masking versus 10 years ago, mm-hmm. or 8 years ago, 6 years ago, what's different? How's it different? And how does it feel?
I think masking in general, at least where I'm at with it right now, is scary.
Okay.
It's scary for someone like me who does probably have control issues.
You're a control enthusiast?
Right. It just doesn't have the way that it has been embedded in my life or programmed in me is not something I can always control or am always aware of. I think I've definitely become way more aware of it now, especially in the last 24 hours.
Okay.
But after researching all the things that you do, they're really things that you don't think about, or they happen and you wouldn't really give it a second thought. One of the things is, I'll go through some examples for you so that you have them. Yeah. Social mirroring or scripting. So that's mm-hmm. When you mimic other people's gestures or facial expressions or accents to blend in. It's essentially assimilation. Or pre-planning. This is more geared towards ADHD and autism, but pre-planning. That's when you rehearse a conversation before you have it or after the fact. And that is something that I have done a lot in my life.
Same.
Or even when you're about to send a risky text, you're just drafting it away in your notes before you send it.
Yeah. Do you? Oh wait, I want to know if I'm the only weirdo who does this because it's very similar. Mm. After you send an email that you're particularly proud of, or you're I love the way I word it. Do you go back and
reread it,
reread it, and reread it again, and then maybe reread it a fourth time or fifth time?
Yeah.
That's weird. Sure. I do it too. I think it's every time I do it, I'm like, there's something wrong with you, bro. But but maybe not.
I know. Suppressing stimming. So that's you're actively forcing yourself not to fidget, not to tap. For me, it's if I have restless leg, when you're shaking your leg, I will, if I notice I'm doing it, I will stop it immediately because I clock that. If I clock that on someone else, I immediately think they're dysregulated, they're nervous, they're anxious, and I don't want anyone to think that about me.
That's very interesting. I go the other way on it.
Really? Leaning into the restless leg?
Yes, I do. I do that. I when I get activated in a meeting or whatever, I'll hop up on my chair or I'll and I know I do this and it's but I've learned to be oh, people pay attention to you because they think that you're about to say something really good when you act all jumpy. Mm-hmm. And I think it's worked for me in the past, so I try to just lean into it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's you having a somatic response and actually letting it happen where most people suppress it.
Right.
Forced eye contact. Mm-hmm. This is also sort of I mean, normal people do this, but
Yeah.
quote unquote, but also it's an ADHD thing where it's like you force eye contact because you know that's what you're quote unquote supposed to do, even if it's uncomfortable for you.
Totally.
So what I'll do is like, because of the ADHD, you'll be talking to me and it's not that I don't care, but sometimes my brain goes somewhere else. But I'm still maintaining eye contact with you while you're talking, even though I'm not hearing a word that's coming out of your mouth.
That's interesting.
I do
And
that.
when you talk to people, do you always look at their eyes?
It depends. If I'm answering a question, like you'll notice when you're asking me something to recall something or like tell a story or talk about myself, I'm typically looking away or looking up or looking like, because I'm looking in my brain essentially for something. One of my professors says I was talking to angels. So weird. That's a whole different. But when someone is talking to me though, I make sure that they feel they're being like heard. But it's also like if you have a special interest and like you just like won't talk about it because you think it's weird and you don't think other people will be accepting of it. The happy face routine. I think this is probably the most common one that everyone can relate to. Suppressing pain, frustration, or depression to appear cheerful or fine, especially in work or social settings. So this is like, you know, the old saying of like, leave your personal life at home, walk in the door. Yeah, definitely a barrier to showing up as your full self.
Totally.
At work.
Yeah.
And then the last one is overcompensating and perfectionism. So that's spending an intense energy to hide struggles with focus, such as obsessive organizing to mask executive dysfunction. In my case, it's lists.
Yeah.
I list away all
Love
day.
a list. Could work better, you know.
I think the only danger with any of this, so like I said, a lot of this stuff is pretty common. But I think where it becomes dangerous, and I think what we're seeing a huge wave of, especially generationally in millennials, is delayed burnout. When I left corporate, and what's interesting about that and why this was kind of alarming to me, was when I left, burnout was not what I identified as me leaving. What I identified when I left was I'm leaving because I'm pivoting careers.
Sure.
And then I burnt myself out doing that immediately because I was already burnt out. And then that was when I didn't realize I was burnt out till probably 6 months after I left my job. And then that took years to recover from. And that's the part that people don't understand. It actually affects your brain like an injury when you're burnt out. And it actually takes a year, 4 years, up to 4 years to recover from burnout.
Yeah.
Like you can be hospitalized for it.
And I feel like it depends too, like the circumstances of your burnout. There are people who just burn out and like they're like, well, I had an insane workload and I never said no to more work, and so I just kept going and going and going because I had to do it and I had to fake it till I make it and all that stuff. And that's one type of burnout. But there's also burnout that sort of comes with trauma, and so like people who work really hard and then they get screwed over by a vindictive boss, for instance, or people who try their best and they put a ton of their self-worth into a project or a company or an initiative, and then that thing doesn't work. And so then it's like, okay, now I gave every bit of energy I had, and not only do I not have that energy anymore, but also I have nothing to show for it because the thing that I was trying to do, whatever, failed, which happens all the time, right? Like you think about the example I've been thinking about is Francis Ford Coppola and his latest movie, Megalopolis.
Okay.
I think that's right. We're going to fact check this in real time because I don't want to get that wrong. But he like spent years and years and years making this movie, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of his own money to make this movie. And nobody liked it. nobody went to see it. Everybody was like, what is
Right.
this nonsense? But wait, we're going to make sure that I'm talking about the right movie.
Which is a risk as a creative you're always taking. And I think that that's what makes being an artist, being a creator,
Yeah.
scary. Like, there's good reason why people have imposter syndrome about, like, what they're putting out there.
Right. Because most things fail. But I want to maybe circle this conversation back. And I want to I always think about, like, there's a 24-year-old version of you and me sitting in some company right now. And I want to, like, what do we tell them? What do we want them to know about being your authentic self at work? Masking, showing up authentically. Like, I'll give you first crack at it, but, like, what is the advice you would give?
I mean, right off the bat, especially once I got to the point where I was managing people who were, fresh out of college, 22 years old, whatever. My first thing as their boss was always just like, I'm going to tell you the one thing I wish someone told me when I got here. No one actually knows what they're doing.
Right.
At first, it's like you're learning a new language. I'm like, listen, am I going to tell you there isn't a dumb question? No, because I don't believe in that.
Right.
But I do believe that, like, all of this shit is made up. And so it's perfectly valid for you not to understand something if this isn't something you've done before. Like, just
totally.
ask the question. I will not think you're dumb.
Yes.
Because I think that when you're straight out of college and, specifically in that environment, let's say like the agency environment, like, it's intimidating when you're around, like, brilliant people.
Yeah.
All the time. And they've been there a while, and, like, this is just second nature to them. Like, I mean, I was like that by the time I left.
Totally.
When you first walk into that, like, I literally built a glossary of acronyms that was like 20-something slides long.
Crazy.
And you walk into that environment, and everyone's talking in letters.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh my God.
What?
And it's only like, and that's only accelerated, like, in advertising marketing over, like, it's gotten so much crazier than it used to be. And it's always been nuts. I mean, like, advertising loves itself some jargon and some acronyms, but I feel like it's tenfold the way it was when I first got into this business. And I think that's a good piece of advice. Let's, like, learn the language of the profession you're in. Like, learn it and understand it, but also don't just parrot it. Like,
Right.
I think that one thing that helps people be authentic is to talk plainly. Like, speak plainly. Bring as much of yourself to your job as you feel comfortable doing. Like, there are parts of yourself, keep them to yourself. But be as authentic as you can be and as you feel comfortable being, because I think authenticity goes a long way.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, my message was, don't ever pretend you know something you don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to help anyone.
I love that.
Especially you.
I that whole saying about, like, fake it till you make it, I've always hated that, because I'm like,
yuck.
but you don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know where people got that that's the thing to do.
I don't know. I'm sure it has its applications. I don't feel like, at least if you have a team, right? Like, if you have other people to support you, there's no reason to do that.
Yep. Like, if you're an airline pilot, you should not fake it till you make it. Like, you can't even get a job as an airline pilot if you're faking it, right?
Right.
So
right.
So if you're in a job where it's okay to fake it till you make it, I don't know, maybe stop faking it. Maybe, like, try to really learn what you're doing.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I'm a big believer in like, understand not just the like what meetings you show up to and what tasks your boss assigns to you and asks you to do. I'm a huge believer in like, understand the theories that underpin whatever your profession is. Like if you're an investment banker, understand the theories that underpin that. If you're in marketing, understand like the different theories around availability or, you know, reach and cost of reach and all, like return on ad spend, stuff like that. Understand the theoretical underpinnings of whatever it is you do. And that will, I think, accelerate your development as a young person in a career because you'll get it. You'll understand the context. And so then if you're like, a problem comes up or a challenge, and you're like, okay, well, how does this intersect with the theoretical framework that governs whatever it is I do?
Right. I think the only issue with that sometimes would be the pace at which these things go and you're meant to learn. I always did, like, after the fact, try to tell, like, do you understand why I asked you to do that? Do you understand the impact of what you doing that means for the rest of the team and how that, like, trickles down? Yep. And I think that that's what you're saying is, like, understand the impact of what the task is and what, like, the implications are. That's when good. You do them. Yeah.
That's good. I don't have any data to back this up. I have sort of like this vibe that one of the things that maybe you could argue it's for the good, but in a lot of professions, there are younger people coming into the workforce and they're basically like, I will put forth the level of effort required for them to keep sending me a check and not one bit more. And I get that. Oh my God, do I get that? I really do. However, if I think back to like the beginning of my career, I would stay up all night teaching myself Excel shortcuts so I could do the data entry stuff that my bosses wanted me to do faster so that I could understand the larger environment. And I think that's not about doing free work for the company. It's about doing free work for yourself so that you understand what you're doing in like a holistic way as opposed to just like a piecemeal way. And I just think that that's ultimately empowering because you're developing your own brain and your own ability to like understand what you're doing and being asked to do and why.
Yeah. I think ultimately it's also like a maturity thing, right? Like, yes, 100%, 1,000%. Like, I can't even hate that is the approach people are taking or where we're at right now, given the state of Earth, period, yes. Full stop, yes. Valid, fine. And the reality is, like, this is where you're at right now. If you're not doing, like, don't think of it as, like, I'm doing this for them.
Right. You're doing it for yourself.
You know, when you're working outside of your allotted transactional 9 to 5, the times that you do stay up late or you're doing extra work, make sure you understand that you're doing it to set yourself up for success.
Completely agree.
Not anyone else. And when you kind of like reframe it that way, like for instance, right before we got on this call, there was something that I probably could have done on Friday, but like I needed to just chill.
For sure.
And the reality was it wasn't due until Monday. Right. But because I don't want to start Monday with like, oh, I have to get the anxiety I've had, I took 1 hour out of my Sunday, knocked it the hell out, and now it's done. And I did that for me, like for my own sanity.
100%. Yeah. So I guess where we're netting out with this masking thing is that, or at least where I am, and you tell me if you disagree with this, but I feel like it's a thing that actually can be a skill, and for the good. It's a thing that can protect people sometimes because it's almost like, you know, game face sometimes. But you don't want to lose yourself in it. And you don't want to be like, I'm being so inauthentic that these people think I'm a person that I'm not. And I have to completely pretend to be someone that I don't even like. And I think if you find yourself in that, then maybe you got to reconsider your mask.
Right. If it's leading to identity confusion, we've gone too far with the mask.
Yeah. The masks have become too intrinsic to our identity, like those Daft Punk guys. Who are they anyway? Nobody.